This session is on interfaces. Let's take a scenario. A user wants to construct a house. So basically he has some requirements, or you can call it as a specifications. He wants to put all the specifications in a document, and he wants to get it done from a builder. So there will be a contract prepared between the user and the builder, and the provider basically has to adhere to the contract, and he builds the product, which is the house, based on the specification, and the user will be using the house. So here you can have more than one provider. So in this case, like you can approach a couple of builders and then show the contract and get the code from each of the builders, and finally you will be approving one of the builder, and he will be doing the implementation of the specification. So here the interface is nothing but the contract, the specifications or your requirements, and providers are going to provide implementation of the interface. So providers in the sense here is builders, who is going to go with the specification and build the house. House is your product, and users are something going to verify that in the product all the specifications are met. So users are going to use the product, providers are going to build the product, and both are referring to the specifications in that actually. Users will verify whether the specifications are met in the product. Builders or the providers will verify whether they have built the product according to the specification. So interface is nothing but the specification or a contract between the user and the provider. User cares about whether the product is as per the specification. Providers builds the product as per the specification. User does not care who is the provider and how he produces the product. He just cares about using the product. Interfaces specify what a class must do and not how. So in our previous example as well, as a user, we specify in the interface what are all the things that needs to be done. So we'll have just the specifications. And the what component is what is the one which is coming in the interface. How will be done by the classes which implements that interface. So we call them as provider classes. So whoever provides that, or whoever implements that interface, they are called as providers. They are trying to read the specification and implement it and build a product. And whoever is using that product is going to be the user or the consumer of the product. So they care about using the product and they don't care about how the product is being built. Class implements an interface and provides implementation for all the methods specified in the interface. So here we are having some 10 specifications, means all the 10 specifications has to be implemented. It is not like abstract classes. In abstract class, you may have some, if there are 10, there are 5 may be implemented and 5 not implemented, and the implementation class needs to care about only the 5 that is not implemented. They can override the other 5, but it is not mandatory. Only the 5 has to be implemented in the abstract classes. But in interface, all the methods are abstract. That means you have to implement all the methods there. There is no implemented methods in interfaces. So interface can be considered as a pure abstract class where no methods are implemented. Interface promotes loose coupling. What do you mean by loose coupling is the consumer and the provider are not tightly coupled. So in this sense, like I go with the contract. Whatever contract is specified, I go with the contract as a consumer. The provider also says I go with the contract. Whatever is specified in the contract, I am just implementing it. So they are these two components, like the consumer and the provider, they are kind of loosely coupled. So that is what we are saying here. So if at all there can be another provider here which can satisfy the implementation. So we can swap the providers. You are not tightly coupled with any provider here in case if you are using with interfaces. Multiple inheritance can be achieved by means of interfaces. Java does not support multiple inheritance. That means Java cannot extend more than one class, but Java can implement more than one interfaces. That is what we call multiple inheritance can be achieved in Java by means of interfaces. The methods in an interface are by default abstract and public. So why abstract? As we know, you cannot have an implemented method in interface. Interface is just a specification. It just says what needs to be done. When it says what needs to be done, it can be only abstract. So whether you mark it as abstract or not, it is by default, it is abstract, because in interface it is expected to be abstract by default. And then it is also public. That means um, we will talk about public in the next sessions, but public means it is for all. Variables also can be defined in interfaces, and by default all the variables are going to be final variables, as well as they are going to be static variables, and they are also public. That means available to all. Interfaces can extend another interface like class. So just like we say class A extends B, the same way interface I1 extends I2. So interface can extend another interface. Interface cannot extend class though, but interface can extend another interface. Class will extend another class but implement interface. So there is a new Java 8 feature which is called default implementation of methods. This is introduced as part of Java 8, and default implementation in the sense like we talked about now, interface will say only what and not how. That means it will all have undefined methods. But from Java 8, you can have some defined methods also in the interface. I mean the implemented methods. And those implemented methods will be default implementations. We'll talk about what is default implementations and how Java 8 supports that. But till Java 8, there is no concept of implementations in interface. We will talk about in a separate session what are all the Java 8 features and how is it different from the regular interfaces. As of now, think like interfaces are going to be a pure abstract class where none of the methods in the interfaces are implemented. Let's take a program and see here. So interface basically, as we said, is a specification or a contract. Mostly we will design interfaces for behaviors. So when we say behaviors, it's going to be printable, viewable, what do you call like kind of doing some actions, like kind of doing some behaviors. So when we have a class and say class implements, that means the class is expected to do something. I mean class is a kind of a blueprint of object, so we know it has a state and a behaviors. Suppose if you want to add a behavior, you will say implements and then say that behavior. So here interface printable. So printable is a behavior that it can be printed. Anything that can be printed is printable. So I make interface as printable. And this printable interface is having one method which is called print. Now I have a class. Similarly, I have one more interface that can be emailable, and it is having a method called email. I have a class called Excel printable, which is implementing the printable interface. So this is how you implement an interface. So a class Excel printable implements printable. That means here printable is the interface name, Excel printable is the class name, and this is nothing but the provider class. Okay, so this Excel printable is going to implement the override the print method. As you see, there's a public void print method there, and it is getting overridden, and it is providing the implementation saying that print it in Excel. So this is going to write the logic to print the content in Excel. I can have one more implementer which is called PDF printable, which is again implementing the printable interface, and it is providing the implementation for the method which is print abstract method print. It is going to implement that, and this implementation is different. It is printing in PDF. Same is the case with emailable. I have an implementation for emailable which is going to email it in PDF. I have just email PDF emailable. Now I have interfaces and I have providers for the interfaces, which is implementing and providing a product for you. So the interface printable is implemented by two providers. One provider is providing the Excel printable, the other one is providing the PDF printable. Both are implementing the same print methods, but they provide different behaviors. I mean, they kind of do different. The way they do it is different. One is doing Excel, the other one is doing a PDF. But they are two providers. Both are implementing the same method called print method, which is defined in the printable interface. And we have one provider for the emailable as well. So now we have interfaces and we have providers for the interfaces. Let's have a program. A class is there, and the class is having a report class where we have to provide some reports, and the reports is having some basic parameters like report name, created by, created date, etc. And this report class can be subclassed by many classes, right? You can have a finance report, you can have a sales report, you can have a marketing report, like that. So for example, here I'm taking a sales report which is extending the report class. That means it is getting all the properties of the report class. Now I have two methods in the sales report. One is print report, other one is email report. Print report is taking an argument called printable. Anything that is printable, give me. So print report is taking an argument called printable. Anything that is emailable, give me. That is emailable is going to come as an argument for the email report. Look at this printable or emailable. They are both are interfaces. Printable is interface and emailable is interface. I don't know who is the provider who is going to come for this. I just code it for the reference. I code it for the interface. I don't code it for the implementation. So it can take any printable and print it. It can take any emailable and email it actually. So that is what the sales report has been coded. Now let's code the client class. So client class sales report test is going to have a main method. Now it is creating a sales report. Sales report s is equal to new sales report of, and then it's creating a printable object. So if you see, I have a interface printable p equals new Excel printable. So there are two implementation available. You want Excel or PDF? I want Excel. So I will go with new Excel printable. So it's the same concept like the abstract class, where I can assign a superclass variable, superclass reference to a subclass object. Again, you cannot create objects for interfaces. Here we can have a reference for interfaces that is pointing to the object that implements that interface. So in this case, printable has been implemented by two providers. I can take any provider object. And printable p is equals new Excel printable. I can also assign printable p is equals new PDF printable, right? And once I get the printable reference, all that I need to do is s.print report of p. That means I'm passing the printable reference. What is the printable reference is pointing to? It is pointing to the Excel printable object. It's actually holding the Excel printable object. And now when you call p.print, it is going to call the print method of Excel printable object, which is going to print in Excel. The next thing is s.email report of new PDF emailable. So I pass the new PDF emailable, which is nothing but an object of type emailable. And when you say e.email, it is going to call the email method of email in PDF, which is the implementation of that class. Let's see this in action. Okay, so let's start with printable class. Oh, it should be interface. Okay, let me change it here. It's not a class. Okay, and in interface you have to say void print method. Okay, I told you like these are all going to be whether you put it or not, it is going to be abstract. You don't need to type it, but by default it is abstract and public. So whether you write it or not, it's going to automatically appear for the interfaces. So if you try to change this, let's say instead of public, you want to give a protected access or private, it's not going to work. It's going to complain like, hey, you cannot give it. You can have only public abstract here. Okay. And if you try to remove abstract, these you can remove abstract, you can put it abstract, but you cannot put final or anything here. It's going to complain here because there is no final methods permitted for an interface. You can have only abstract methods. So if you just put void print, it is going to add public and abstract to it. Okay, so we have one interface which is printable. Let's create another interface which is emailable. So this is going to be void email. Again, public abstract will be added automatically. Okay, so we have two interfaces created. Now we need to have implementations for this. Somebody has to implement this, right? So provider classes. So let's say class, we'll say print Excel printer, print Excel print. This is a class, and now I say Excel print is going to implement printable, just like abstract classes. But the only difference is they extend it. Here we implement it. That's the only difference. So Excel print implements printable. So what is going to happen here is it's going to complain, hey, you are implementing a printable interface, but printable is having a method called void print. You didn't provide implementation for that method. Only when you provide that, when you satisfy that specification, only when you implement that specification, I can consider you as a class. Otherwise, you have to be an abstract class. So here I will say, okay, I'm implementing this print method. So here I'm going to put sysout Excel print. Okay, just going to copy this. Let's create one more class, another provider, which is PDF print as another provider. He is going to provide the implementation, but he's going to say implements printable. Then again it complies, you can put the same code, and instead of Excel print is going to be PDF print. And there is emailable. We can have one class to implement that as well. Even in fact you can have two classes, but let me make it one class. Make it as PDF emailable. This is not extending. This is not implementing printable, but it is implementing emailable. So again you have this type is not doing it, so you can have a quick fix for this. You go here, sorry, you should get add unimplemented methods. Did I not save it? Hold on. Yeah, I know. Okay, so write a method implementation, same email PDF. Okay, so you can also have email Excel if you want, and create one more implementation for emailable. Okay, so I have interfaces, two interfaces, and I have three implementation, two for printable and one for emailable. Now we'll write a client class which is going to use this. So we can simply say test report, just without creating the other classes. I'm just giving a test report here. And this is the user, like we have three sections. One is the interface, the other one is provider. Now we are going the user or the consumer of the class. So for the consumer of the class, I can simply say I can create an object of Excel print. Instead of Excel print, I can create object of printable. So printable p is equals new, and I can take any provider of printable. So I can take Excel print, or I can take PDF print. If I take Excel print and if I say p.print, call p.print method, then it's going to give me going to say Excel print. If I pass PDF print, the object as the provider, so I will get that provider's implementation. So you have to understand only one thing is you are coding it for the interface and not for the implementation. So you are using the p.print method. P is the printable reference. I'm not calling PDF print P is equal to new PDF print. I'm doing printable P is equal to new PDF print. That means I have a interface reference for the implementation. So the implementation can change. You can plug in any implementation that you want. You can use a PDF print, you can use a Excel print, you can use a Word print tomorrow. But I'm going to call the p.print method all the time, and that is going to invoke whatever object you are giving me. It is going to implement that method. So you can change or swap your providers, but what cannot be changed is your interface is going to be print. I'm going to expect the print method to work based on, you can change the provider and they know how to implement it and give the results, but you as a consumer, you will be using the print method. You'll be using according to your specifications. Okay, so it's a sample simpler implementation. Well, let's go and really kind of a little bit complicate this. um, we can have um, um, okay, report class, just as such we saw in the, so this report is going to be having report name, then string created by, who created this report, etc. So it's basic things about that is common for all the reports will be included here. And you will have another class which is going to be having the sales report. So the sales report class is going to extend the report class so that it can use the properties of the report instead of redefining them. Okay, and here as a sales report, I would like to print the report. So I want to print report, two methods, print report, and the print report is taking some argument of printable. It expects a printable. It can be any printable, Excel printable, PDF printable, any implementations of printable can be passed here. And it is going to call the print method with that implementation. Same is going to be done with the, so print report and the email report. I want to email the report as well. And for emailing the report, I need a emailable object, not a printable object. So I need a emailable object, e, and then c dot email. So emailable does not contain the specification as email. It's having, sorry, contains the specification as email and not print. Okay, so this sales report defined two methods. One is print report, print, and then email report. Print report expects a printable argument. This one expects a emailable argument. So now go to a class, create this test class for the sales report. And create an object for sales report. I created an object of sales report. And I need to pass s dot print report. I want to print the sales report. For printing the sales report, I need a printable object. So how do I get this printable object? I can say printable p is equal to new implementation, any one implementation, whatever you have, Excel print or this print s dot. So now if you do this, it's going to happen is, and you can also do, you want to email report as well, so email report, and you want to pass the implementation of emailable, so you can say new PDF emailable, or you can define like emailable e is equal to new PDF email and s dot print report is that email report of e. You can do that way as well. I'm just using a shortcut here. Okay, so I'm just testing the sales report. I create an object of sales report and I call the method print report. In order to call the print report object, I need to pass a printable object, printable reference. So printable reference means we cannot, we need to have the pass the actual object. So I point this reference to an actual object and call this method. So now run this class, you will get it, Excel print and email PDF. right? So as I said, like the interface can extend another interface, so you can have like printable or and also a class can extend two things, like we can have a class something like this. I'm sorry. You can have a class like say PDF print and email. Just have a class like PDF print email. So here you can simply say it is implementing not only printable, it's implementing two interfaces, printable and emailable. You do like this. So which means that now this has to provide implementation for two methods, one from the printable, other one for the emailable. So you have to provide implementation for both the methods here. So you have to say here sysout PDF email, and here you have to say, I'm sorry, didn't copy it. You can say PDF print. Oops. Okay. So now this is a class which implements two interfaces. This provider is implementing both the printable and emailable, both interfaces. So he's having implementations for both the methods, from printable as well as emailable. So if you want to use this class, let's say we have a test class, test report, we are having some test report class. So you can, instead of uh, you can create this object PDF printable and emailable. So in case if you are using here printable P and you want to use PDF, you can use PDF print email as well here. But the problem is, if you have, see, PDF print email is implementing both printable and emailable, right? So in this scenario, what is going to happen is when you have p.print, it's okay because printable class has only the print method, okay? But you cannot use p.email because printable itself is not having email method. You cannot do this. So if you are having printable reference, you can call only the methods that is available in printable reference, just like our regular overriding concept here as well. So if you can use the same object for emailable as well. You can say emailable is equal to the same implementation, because this implementation is providing implementation for both printable and emailable. And now we can say e dot email. So it's going to work with both the, but you can use the same implementation for both this, and I can assign the same implementation for this two references of the interfaces. That's the power of having the interface references. Thank you.